Hi, let's have another look at a telephone. I've been up to the cupboard and found this item which I didn't even know I had. It's okay, an example of what happens in age to the actual plastic case. I rather fancy that is what the colour should be, but through action of sunlight it's changed the colour to a dull browny kind of colour. Anyhow, as I say, with antiques, all those things are called patina, which happens with age. So, you know, we live with it. It probably can be cleaned off. I don't know. Imagine taking quite a lot of elbow grease to sort of polish out the coloration. You can see on the handset. Quite distinct. Anyway, what I would say, if you're storing these phones, cover them over with a sheet or something like that to keep the sun's rays, the ultraviolet, from affecting the plastic. As I say, I tend to not worry too much about colours. I'm more interested in the actual workings or the mechanisms. Anyhow, before I start rambling, I found this phone upstairs in the cupboard. I had put one of these on, a later version. It's a Citesa from Spain, and I believe this model is called Heraldo. Now, you have to be a bit of a detective to find out more about these phones, because on this one there's no mention of the name, no mention of Citesa or ITT, and it made me thinking, well, why? But what I did see was the diagram, okay, which is also very nice. And to the other side, a translation of the actual colours. You notice one of the leads going up to the handset is VE. When you look for VE, and I have a job to see that because my eyes are not that good. There's VE, and it shows you all the translations of a particular colour. So this is really a key to the colours that you would find illustrated on the actual diagram, and would obviously tell the coding wherever you were in any other country. Which says something to me. It says, well, this possibly was a model which was probably made in Spain. I see no reason why it wasn't made in Spain, and exported to various countries of the world, possibly South America, places like that. It's just a thought, and I think I may be right. I can show you another thing is the dial on this phone is slightly different. With that type of, let's put it so it shows it up better. Sorry, it's round the other way. Always get it mixed up. Anyway, I know it's back to front, but on these dials, to flip the number out, you've got a little hole there. It's like a little hole where you would insert a pin or something that's thin to release the catch to remove the dial. And this is typical on the American type phones, particularly the 500 version, and that is how you release the finger plate to get in to renew or change the actual number. The similarity to the American phone is even closer, because turning this one over, you can see it's more or less based on the Western Electric type of dial. Very similar. And this dial's quite well made using metal, which is nice. A lot of these dials now were using plastics, but this one is metal. And further look over to the ringer or the bell, and you've got a number in there which states 67, and that I think is the year that this was made, so 1967, which would follow because the construction is good. The cradle or the operating lever is in metal. The more up-to-date ones are made of plastic. This is made of good metal, and the spring set is also very similar to the spring set or the operation of the spring set in the 500 type, and also I believe the little princess type phone. Nice terminals. Once again, I like to see screw terminals, nicely numbered, L1 and L2 being the two line connections. Got your side tone induction coil and capacitors. Now on the rear of this, I can turn it over, there's no clues. The only thing is a number. There's no writing, nothing to say Citesa or ITT or even made in Spain. Got the typical feet with two little pins there, which are not always that tight, but they are in this model. And also the cable is held in, I can show you, by little clips on the cable ends. That one's missing because it's not the right cable. Now turning this back, another thing is, I understand that the export models, presumably the ones that were sent to South America, had a cord which was black. Well, this cord's white, but that doesn't mean a thing. In the past, that cord could have been changed. And I also understand, looking at the case, that the cutouts, now these are called mouse holes, I believe. I suppose it's reminiscent of what you'd see in the skirting where a mouse has been. Some of them were chopped to form a square, but this phone isn't. It's another feature. Anyhow, that is more or less all I can say about this. In my opinion, this was a model made for export, built on the Heraldo lines, fairly early one, being 67, that is what it's written within the one of the bell gongs. This typical type of ringer is what you'd find on this type of phone. Reduces space, quite neat. It's also ringers that has been found on other phones. So that's more or less all I've got to say. I'll show you again the diagram. If you're trying to follow it, you've got the diagram there. You take a copy of that somewhere. And on the other side, you've got your colours in various languages, which indicates that, yep, this is an export model. The handset has the normal inserts that you'd find. I think these were both, I checked them, they're both from Spain. They are typical of the inserts for this particular model, which was probably one of the first, I would think, of this one. By going by that date, 60, it looks like it's either 67 or 60. I think it's 67. Yeah, it looks like 67. 12th month, 67. So, yeah, it's quite an old one. Anyhow, once again, thanks for watching. You can see that the type of cable there is that square. That would, the mouse hole, they say, fits in that little space. So it acts as a restrainer, also as the little clip that goes underneath. Yeah, I honestly say, I think that's all I've got to say with this. The dial itself looks like a deluxe dial. It's got a sort of a goldy finish. It's not gold, it's probably brass. The numbers are also in this brassy golden touch. Looks quite a deluxe model, which I think is also slightly different to the standard Citesa phone. Also, these are things you can find. Looking at the case, see there two little indentations, and that is where the finger stop would go, depending on the IDP or the interdigital pulls. Some phones, this one in particular, shows the stop very close to the 0. Some of them, it's in there, depending on where the phone's going to be used or the maker of the dial. And that is the reason for those two little spaces. I know other makers did do these phones. I think one of them, they used a Fassi standard dial, which was quite a popular dial, but very distinct. You can tell what it was by just looking at it. But this one is the correct one for this phone, and as far as I know, there's no mention on there of Citesa or ITT. I'm assuming that is the only Citesa is, as I say, on the inserts in there. Anyhow, I'm finding difficulty speaking now. I think I've more or less said all. And when you've said all, it's nice to actually shut up and let it get on. You can see the little green component. That is the anti-click device. It is like two diodes. And yep, I think that's all I've got to say. The cord is obviously not the original. I might have even put it in. Notice the knot there so that you don't pull it through. So yeah, that's all. Any comments please make, and as I say, this looks like an export Heraldo Citesa in very good nick from 67. So it's a few years old. Case is all right. It's a bit, let's say it should be white, but it's gone brown. That is, I use the word patina. That's what you'd say on, old coins or old metals. You never clean them. It's called patina. Anyhow, enough of me going on. I'll put this one up, and thanks again for watching. Thank you.